I know it's Thursday night. What is it? Last night was a Friday, right? Yeah, we had to do it on a Friday. I thought we finally got back. Oh, we got we're working on it. Obviously, we got a different co-host this time. Same spot. Different wild animal that I own. Yeah, busy. Definitely felt like a setup for wrestling with everything AEW has going on, everything WWE has for Bash at Berlin on the 31st, 12:30. Should be interesting on an 85-inch TV. And NXT also has is No Mercy the following week. I'm trying to remember. Apologies, I already forgot.
Think so.
No, they're. Oh, it's the following month, September 30th. Right?
My
Yeah.
birthday.
No. Wait. Oh. No. I'm already screwing this up. September 1st, 4:30. So Sunday.
Not my birthday.
Yeah, not your birthday. Oh, here we go. All about Dan's birthday. All about Dan's birthday. Jesus, Dan. Let it go, okay?
You only turned 30, once.
Yeah,
So.
times that by 2. You're the same age as JD. Anyways, we don't need to get this episode pulled for any insane political comments that you make because you've been on a tear lately, Dan. That's what the viewers have been telling me.
I bet.
So, where would you like to start? Would you like to start Raw? Would you like to start AEW? Would you like to start NXT?
Let's start. Let's leave AEW for the end because I'm sure we're gonna argue about a couple of things on our agenda here. So
No, not really. I mean, I think I'm more intrigued by AEW than I think outright negative. Let's start with AEW.
okay, all right, let's go.
Let's give the co. Oh, she's gone. Oh, nope, she's on my sweatshirt.
No,
There she is.
she's there.
She's there. All right. Yeah. So, I guess we could start. You want to start by talking about Dynamite, or you want to start talking about what made the waves today from the 83 Weeks podcast? Because controversy creates cash, Dan.
That's right. That's what I've heard. Let's start there.
Okay. So basically, the one big thing that came out of the pod from 83 Weeks, from Conrad and Eric Bischoff, easily top 3 podcasts for me out of all podcasts, out of all genres. I think they have so much knowledge, and the way that they could just break it down so things seem practical is pretty crazy and pretty interesting. So looking at my notes here, they were talking about the TV deal, right? That's what it's just been. TV deal. That's all we've been hearing for what? Last year and a half? Would you say? Shorter than that? Longer than that?
Probably about a year. I mean, the wrestling media has been really keen to trying to figure it out. So
okay, about a year now that Tony's just been saying, we're close. It's close. Meltzer's been saying it's pretty much been verbally agreed upon. Just working out fine-tuned details, and they'll get back to it. Right? That's what he's been like. The WBD's happy, and AEW's happy, and WBD's happy, and AEW's happy. Like, that's all we've been hearing is that there's been promising conversations. It's pretty much done. Just nothing has been signed on the dotted line, right? Like, that's what it comes down to. That's what we've been hearing. I guess I'm intrigued by this. Not in, like, a negative way that I'm trying to crap on Tony. But, like, kind of like, I don't know. When I think about this, I kind of think of Cena, right? And I kind of think of Roman, because it felt like they were manufactured so much that like it was forced down our throats. It eventually like everybody turned on them, or once did turn on them, right? Like everybody like just couldn't stand them, felt they were fake, blah blah. Like if Tony keeps saying that this is coming, that the deal is apparent and they're just fine tuning details, and we see no announcement, we see WBD don't say anything. Like we just all we hear is Tony saying the TV deal is here, the TV deal is coming, the big announcement will be made soon, and then it's about them doing a show back in Wembley or a show in Texas, or or they're doing such and such, or they're having you know Hidden Door all over again, or the Forbidden Door all over again. So it's like I'm intrigued, I guess, from a psychology aspect of it. Of when do you think him just continue to talk about it eventually turns on him?
Well, the one thing I think, I mean, he's not necessarily going out to talk about this. He's
No,
asked about it all the
yeah,
time.
yeah, in the podcast, it's a topic. Yeah, agreed. But
Right. And so whenever
but
he
like
does an interview, though, he's asked. So, I mean, he can't really help that part, you know?
yeah, but right.
I don't remember. Maybe you can show me, you can prove me wrong. I don't remember him saying that the deal is essentially done. I know Meltzer reported it, but I don't know that I've ever heard Tony say that. I've heard him say he thinks the deal will get done and he's happy with the negotiations so far. Um, but I don't know that I've ever heard him say a deal's just about done. Now, well, within the last couple of days, maybe that's changed because I haven't paid attention to the words, but I've seen the pictures with him wearing the like Warner Brother hats and the Max hat like he was actually on Barstool, I don't know, maybe today or yesterday on
Yeah, the
that
wrestling podcast.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
with
he
that
had a
guy.
Max hat on, so um but the exclusive negotiating window, I believe, is over. So in theory, he could be having talks with other people.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, he's used the analogy that they're at the red zone and they're just about to score a touchdown on a conference call multiple times.
okay. I mean, yeah,
But to
that's
some
fine.
people, that could be him saying the deal's done, and then it could just be him using his coked out analogies because the Jaguars never
I
scored
mean,
touchdowns.
that's just an analogy a lot of people do. Like either
Yeah,
way, he knows he's getting a TV deal. Like so he can
yeah.
say that. 'Cause even if it's a crappy deal, he'll find a deal
Well,
somewhere.
yes,
If
because
NWA can get a deal, AEW can
yeah,
get a
well,
deal.
NWA is better, but
No, it's not.
it
No, it's not.
it's not Dan.
It's not better. It's not
They're
even
on the
close to
same
better.
plane. There's
I
4 or 5 guys
I
that I
don't
would
even
say
know
that are
about that.
better from there.
Well, individual guys, but the program as a whole is not better.
Can you really
I
tell
mean,
the difference?
there are guys on independent promotions we could say are better than wrestlers in major promotions. That
Come
doesn't
on,
mean much.
you're talking about EC3 here.
Yeah, no thanks.
I know that's so funny. He's still around. Um,
After his failed promotion,
yeah. What was it? Was his that
I don't know
celebrity thing, right?
him.
Was
No,
that the
no,
thing
no.
that
Remember,
Braun signed up for?
him and Braun were doing it, and
Yeah,
then
it was
they
like
were
that.
gonna change the world. Remember, and like it was oh god, I can't remember what it was called.
Control your narrative.
Yeah, yeah, CYN, that's right. And that didn't last too long, and then all of a sudden Strowman's back on WWE.
Yeah, because this started at the same time they started that like fan simulated football league, right? Because this was during COVID, or or
I
at
think
the
so.
end of COVID, depending on how you vote. Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
something.
Interesting. I forgot about. Yeah, I
They
knew
still have
they
a
owned it,
website.
but yeah, and Austin Aries
Oh,
competed in 6 man.
it's a school now.
Nice.
That's what it is. It's a school now.
Well, that's
And
cool.
they do like little shows as part of the school.
Nice. So like the Monster Factory in New Jersey. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, right. And there's a few out there, right? Doesn't Booker T's school do the same thing? They do their own shows and stuff.
Yeah, but he has WWE cameras. So yeah, it's just at an upper echelon, I guess you'd say. But yeah, I think AEW's gonna get a contract as well, right? Because it doesn't cost a lot to put on what they put on, right? Like if you're not WWE, wrestling really doesn't cost a lot to produce and to put on TV, right? Like that's the same thing Eric has said years and years and years about why WCW was around to fight like it did, because in reality, what was the most expensive thing to do when they went live on the TV time, right? Like that's where it
Yeah,
cost. So
yeah.
I think um I did I don't know if you caught this part from him, but he did mention that from a very high confirmed source, and Conrad agreed with him, that Warner Brothers Discovery is actually splitting up departments now because of the 9 billion that they lost. Like they're in talks of selling out or selling off certain subdivisions or whatnot. So that could make this interesting as well, right? Because like,
Yeah.
say if they do get that sports, right, that sports channel that we talked about on the last pod, that they take True TV, I believe I said they would turn it into a sports network, and they put AEW onto there, but then like that whole True TV sports division gets sold somewhere else. Um, what are then what happens, right? Like, because then it's like, does Tony have a different boss then? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so like, is it
Right.
somebody that's not as forgivable as WBD was? But I do think they'll get a contract eventually. I don't know if it's in the dear future or what, but I do foresee them
No,
getting a contract.
it has to be soon, I think. Isn't their deal is up? I think what, the end of this year, beginning of next.
Uh,
I think it's up. It has to be relatively soon. I'm looking to see if I can find it.
so as of 2 days ago, Warner Brothers Discovery. Now this is from the Sportster.com. Excuse me.
Oh, I see this. It's citing Fightful though.
Okay. Citing Fightful, Warner Brothers Discovery has made a new offer to AEW for its TV rights as the current deal between the two is set to expire. The offer from WBD is reportedly at least double the value of the current deal. The current deal is worth to be $70 million per year, so then that would mean it's around 140, 150 a year, depending on the specifics of the deal. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because then it's like, if you're Tony, do you just sign on that now? Like, do you just take it and then try and negotiate down the line for a better one? Like, because WBD is under some scrutiny now, like what they lost, what they're getting into because of the whole TNT and basketball drama. Um, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, more power to him. I think it helps. Obviously, I don't think you're going to get that return on investment that you probably like think you're going to get going into wrestling. Like if you compare it to WWE, right? Like you're just not going to get that.
No.
So you're going to have the smart owner that comes in that's going to continue to let Tony do what he does, or try and get Tony to work with a certain plan, right? Just to try and build it up. Because I mean, how much you think this TV deal and everything that's being rumored about this is weighing on the wrestlers? Because the past couple of weeks, the past 2-3 weeks, Meltzer has reported that he's been told which again, you don't know if this is straight out lies or what, but Uncle Dave has said he's been told veterans have been walking around the locker room and talking about how they're kind of upset due to the low attendance for their shows. That it's starting to hit home backstage, like that these shows are not selling like they once were, or they're not selling as much as they think they should be.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I guess, I take his reporting with the same grain of salt I take any other report of his, so I don't know. I really don't
Agreed.
on whether or
No,
not to
agreed.
believe
Yeah,
it,
agreed.
like, that I don't know. I tend to think that, like, while he obviously has had a lot of stories that he's reported that haven't been, well, he's had a bunch that haven't even been close to true, or he's, reported too early or things like that. I do come from a camp of, like, when you look back at it and listening to 83 Weeks, any of Conrad's podcasts for the most part, he flips back and forth between who he uses for historical reference, but Dave is who he uses a lot. PW Torch is another one, and Wade Keller. But I don't know, 8 out of 10 times he's pretty much close to what ends up happening. So I don't know, like 80% of what he reports is close to true, right? Like maybe the details aren't exact, but the ideas are, right? Like the general idea is.
Yeah.
Um
No, the quote
so
is, but there is a concern about attendance and popularity that wasn't there in the past. But he said, however, the locker room generally gets along.
yeah, and I mean a lot of, I don't know about all of them obviously, but there's certainly what seemingly a high amount of guys, wrestlers in those locker rooms that are probably still content and they're getting a paycheck.
Yep.
Like, so yeah, do they like a half empty house? No, but they like where they're at. They like their schedule. They like a lot of the people in there. They probably like that it's, to a degree, they like a little bit more lax process, and they're still taking home a check every week.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. No, I agree.
and I'm sure there's a few that are like, no, I hate this. I want to be in front of 20,000 every show. And if I, well, was it LA Knight who talked about that? Like, he took less money to go to the WWE from being a top guy in TNA to basically making nothing in WWE just to get a chance at what WWE had. And
Correct.
that ended up paying off for him for sure. But it was a risk, but he didn't, at that point, he didn't care about the money, right? Like, you know, for a guy like Cardona who, has made a living out of the independent scene, and in some cases, that's only going to be 600 people. I mean, we were
Yeah.
at a show that probably only had, what, 600 people with him. I don't know how many
Probably
people
less
can
than
fit in
that.
Riverwood.
Yeah. Probably
Yeah.
less than that. Oh, yeah. I would be
So
surprised if it was even half that because of how small the venue is. But yeah, I get your point. Yeah, I mean, there's always good, but it's kind of like a corporate job, right? Like you're always gonna have the staff that's content at what they do day in day out. They just check in, check out. But then you're also gonna have staff that's gonna want to come in there, strive for more, do more, pick up more, do whatever. You know what I mean? Because some people just can't sit still, or that's just how some people are built. And I think like once the next round of contracts are up for AEW, the next wave of like Tony's not resigning this guy, this guy, this guy. I think you're gonna see a lot more of those guys that are gonna come out as basically being the guys that just weren't okay with what the attendance is. Because I don't really think you can keep a strong company if you have those guys, if that's getting back to Dave and you still have a good portion of those guys backstage. I think you need to have everybody on the same ship. And it's like, we're going to go out there, we're going to put on a hell of a show. We're not going to worry about the attendance tonight because we're going to put on a show that's going to make the next town want to come, the next town want to come, and so on and so on. I think that's what we're gonna eventually see AEW have to do? Because once again, eh, that whole MJF and Britt B- Baker thing, now that came out as being severely exaggerated. So it's like, what are like, you know what I mean? Like at some point, Tony's gonna have to find the source for all of this, or he's gonna have to have a sit down conversation with Dave and be like, like, who's telling you
Yeah.
this, right? Like, because like, or just tell Dave if you have questions, call me. Like, we can have a
Mhm.
weekly c- conference line, like just when they used to have Tony on um Busted Open, and then he got overprotective of a comment that was made because of the show and the ratings by Bubba Ray, I believe, and he's never been back since. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But yeah, I
Yep.
just found it interesting because I do think it's like it is big, right? Like it is big for everybody involved. Like if they can get this deal, right? Like it's um yeah, I mean it's going to be crucial to the development of AEW, which more like we said before, the more wrestling we have on TV, the better it is for everybody that's trying to get a paycheck to be a wrestler. So, um
I think doubling, if Sean Ross Sapp's report is true, that they're doubling their deal that they currently have, that's pretty good,
yeah,
right? Like it's when you want to compare it, it's 30% the price that WWE got from Netflix.
yeah,
So that's not bad when you consider the differences in the company and the differences in ratings and the differences in attendance, right? So, but this is what I think that comes down to what I've always said, that like at the end of the day, AEW today still represents a very successful program for TNT and TBS, or for,
yes,
Warner Brothers.
yes,
You know, is it WWE numbers? No, of course not. But TNT is probably still happy with being, they're consistently top 5 in the ratings on Wednesdays. I haven't really looked at Collision ratings. I could, but um they're consistently top 5. Now this past week they were number 9, but literally number 1 through 8 were the convention. So they were the top non-convention feed of the night.
yeah,
Um so there's value there for that, for sure. And like we said too, if they're going to end up with no NBA, like, you know,
yeah. I mean that's it too, right? Like, does whatever come out of the NBA affect the deal that they give AEW? Like, do you think that's why it's not signed yet? Because WBD doesn't know what they're gonna have to go in
no,
legally wise for us?
I don't think so. Um, only because, um, only because I think like they were intending to have what they offered, right? Because they're suing to try to get it back.
Yeah,
And they've been doing this negotiation alongside of that. So, and I also think too, like they likely have a value they've assigned to AEW that they're willing to pay. And that just works. Like tanking the NBA deal doesn't necessarily, yes, it opens up more money, but it's not like they're going to dump that into AEW's pockets either, right? Like they're just gonna spend that on something else for sure. So I don't think that. I mean, I guess I could be wrong, but I just don't see that.
well, I was just thinking about not so much they were gonna take the money from the NBA and put it there. I was just thinking about the overall legal cost of it from like an operational side of it. Like, are they just worried about how much it might cost legally to get the NBA back, that they're trying to be like still push forward with the AEW deal, but still be conservative, that if they got to go in and touch the bank, that they can still go in and touch the bank to get the NBA back, right? Like that type of
Yeah, maybe.
mindset about it. But yeah, it's all interesting, right? Because like with the internet now, like we hear about every last thing with wrestling. Like growing up, I don't think we ever heard about TV deals, right? Like even if you got the wrestling magazines, like I did, like there was never columns or stories in there. Like you just
Yeah.
heard WCW versus WWF. Like so, like yeah, it's cool that we get to see like behind the curtain. Um, but yeah, I mean, I totally get the deal. I the more wrestling, the better. So yeah, so yeah, let's talk about Dynamite. On the 21st. Um, so it started off the no contact contract signing between Britt and Mercedes Monet.
Which
Britt,
technically she followed.
yeah. Britt had a good line in there. You have always been one of four, referring back to the four horsewomen. I have always been one of one. So it's good to see that Britt still, you know, has that bite on the mic. I mean, we haven't really seen much from her if you're not following her Twitter feed or of her complaining about a Pittsburgh Steelers game. Um, but yeah, I mean, the thoughts on this? You think it's gonna be good?
Um, I mean, I think it's going to be okay. I don't know if it's going to be good. I don't think it'll be bad. I just don't know if it'll be good.
Yeah, agreed. Um, Chris Jericho. Then we had Chris Jericho with the Learning Tree versus Dynamite Kid, I believe, right? Yep.
Yeah,
Chris Jericho wins.
sure does.
Are you done with Jericho?
Um, yeah, I mean, generally, but it's just part of the life cycle of him, right? Like I do agree, like he has a life cycle that he repeats over and over again. One of these days that will end. I don't know if this is the time or not, right? Like because I feel like I've been here before with him and then something happens and then he's fun to watch again or
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, eventually that's going to run out for sure. I just don't know if now is that time. I mean, to a degree, it might just be because like he's in a weird spot in AEW, and AEW is in a weird spot right now in general with their viewership and their all their stuff, right? So I don't know, but this is what happens, right? After a while, you you love them, then you hate them, you love to hate them, and then you get sick of them, and then next thing you know, you love them. So I don't know.
Can I take a hot take on you there?
Sure.
I think AEW is better if this is the time in Chris Jericho's career where he's backstage only. I think
Okay.
it's. I think it's. I just think it's time, right? Like, it eventually came time for Sean. It eventually came time for Hunter. Like, I get those were two bad injuries and one finding God that told him to stop wrestling. But I just think the way Chris Jericho comes out there and he says things like, I still have a six pack. I could still do a moonsault. I could still wrestle. Um, you know, like that's kind of like, and it's sure, like you could write it off as like it's him being a heel, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. Did Jericho? Does AEW really need Jericho out there just spitting off like this? Like I just like he has so much experience, right? So much experience, so much talent, like so much everything to give back to the younger guys that like I just think it's time. Like and he could still be on camera and still like he can be the guy to bring the learning tree along. He doesn't have to be the guy that's constantly in the ring, right?
Hmm.
Like, and I think that can build another part of his career of like, yeah, he did all this in the ring. He's always been this guy in the ring. This is Y2J. He revolutionized this, but then all of a sudden, he felt it was time just to give back, and then he switched, right? Like,
Yep.
kind of like what Billy Gunn did for the Acclaimed, right? Like he was their like wrestling dad. Like he brought him along, right? Like that type of thing. Like, and he doesn't wrestle all the time. I mean, he's doing it more frequently now, I think. But like, there's times he takes off and he's just there standing around ringside. Like, I just think we're out of the point of to help AEW. We need to see Chris Jericho. That might be some, um, uh, you know, that might be some hot takes for some people on the Squared Circle feed because I keep getting yelled at on there. But
That's why I don't even join that feed.
I just like the part they do about wrestling history, like just to go back in time and see stuff. I think that's cool. But after that, Tony Storm versus Saraya, aka Paige, with Harley Cameron. Tony Storm wins. Did you see the clip I sent you of this?
Yeah.
I mean, but this is where the best wrestlers
Yeah.
end. Then Okada versus Claudio. I think that could be interesting if I actually watched it. I didn't watch it. I fell asleep early last night because I'm old. It was a time limit draw. So, and then of course, your favorite people, the Elite, appear afterwards and say, "You guys want 5 more minutes?" And they can't. Contract only says 20. Oh, look at that. Maybe next time, Claudio. So, then we got Darby Allin, FTR, yay, versus the Young Bucks and Jack Perry. Winners, Darby and FTR. Yay, for Darby. I really want the Darby in WWE.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
want,
I mean,
like, if they're getting
there's a
uncensored.
few guys over there I want
All right,
in WWE.
real quick, what's your top three? Top 3 or 5? Let's spice this up a little bit.
MJF.
Obviously, yeah, obviously.
MJF.
He has to be one, right? He's the consensus.
Yeah. Yeah. MJF. Darby.
Is
I'd
Darby?
actually, I'd like the Acclaimed to go there.
Mm-hmm. They're
You know,
by 2.
I mean, they could bring Billy Gunn. That'd be kind of fun. But like,
Bring back DX.
yeah, but just the Acclaimed for sure. Um, that's probably it for my 3. Like that, I can
Really?
think of off the top of my head. I mean, just off the top of my head, like the 3 I definitely want to see. Like other guys, right? Like you'd always want to see like Samoa Joe come back,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm talking guys who have never been there, right, and have made a name for themselves on AEW specifically, right? Like so,
Yeah.
those are 3 guys that have never been there in that sense, and are hot now or have been hot through AEW, and who knows what it would be like with the machine behind them. Like as I'm talking, I'm thinking of other people like Ricky Starks, right? Like I know that rumor is out there that he might get there. We saw Ethan Page come over, and that's been good, right? Like so.
So I have one that 2 out of the 3 have already been at WWE.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't thinking of those if they've already been there, but I guess if they've been there and
yeah,
two out of
2 out of the 3 members of this trio has already been there. You probably know who I'm talking about.
Oh, House of Black.
Yeah, because
I kept
think
wanting to say Blackpool Combat Club. I'm like, no, House of Black.
Eh,
Like what?
Um, and I would
Oh, and
love.
Orange Cassidy. How could I forget Orange Cassidy? Oh
Well,
my god, I
and
don't know.
who else did we talk about? We've talked about this before when we've been at ESW shows because he originally started there.
I, I'm drawing a blank now.
He'll put a curse on you.
Oh, Danhausen. Yeah.
But we
I
both have
mean,
concerns.
yeah. I mean, I like Danhausen a lot. Its gimmick is great and all that. I don't know. Like, I mean, yeah, in WWE. Yeah, I guess. Like, but he has to stick with his like little bit comedy gimmick, which is eventually going to get tough because they only have a certain number of slots for that. Like that's the spot that like R-Truth fills right now,
Yeah,
So
yeah,
um but yeah, I mean, him coming out, I mean, for now, they could always have him doing funny shit with CM Punk since they're
yeah.
such good buds. Um yeah, I forgot about him, but Orange Cassidy was the other one I'd have to have on my list.
And I would
There's
eventually like to get Mark Briscoe to the WWE before he's done.
yeah, yeah.
Just you know what I mean? Just because like I don't know. If you're talking about the history of tag team wrestling in general, not just based on a specific company, you can't you can't forget about the Briscoes. Like what they did on the Indies, what they did when Ring of Honor was back on public access TV back in the day. Like they're up there, right? Like they have to be right in the same line of Hardy, the Hardys, Edge and Christian, like New Day, whatever.
Yeah.
They he who shall not be named because of his ongoing open lawsuits never found them visually pleasing. That's what it comes
Right.
down to. Not that they
Yep.
couldn't never go, they just were never visually pleasing. Which is which now this is probably going to give me into an ADD tangent. How are the Dudley Boys visually pleasing? I just don't get that. Like it's actually
I
been
think
stated by those in charge back in the day that the Briscoes are just not visually pleasing. But you got the Dudleys. You got
well,
Spike Dudley. He looks like
you
Gollum
also
from Lord of the Rings.
you also had the Bushwhackers.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So like,
But
what are we really saying here?
I think the my guess is, I guess I don't know, but my guess is that a lot of that attitude was much more like he was only gonna push the perfect
Right,
looking people,
right.
right? There was a place for guys like the Bushwhackers and guys like Duke the Dumpster Drosy, right? Like, or Puke, whatever the hell his name was for a while, and like, you know, those people out there. But the Brooklyn Brawler, right?
Yeah,
Um, but his thing was much more he liked big, strong, muscular people, and those were gonna be his champions. Those were gonna be his baby faces, his ultra baby faces, and the rest were just going to be in existence.
yeah. I guess but like I said, that's a very wormhole topic. I just stopped myself from going down. He would only push those, but I guess you could say he pooped on all the others, right, Dan? All right. Toothin?
I mean, you're the one who never wanted to speak his name again, so
Well, I think I made it very obvious, didn't I? Um, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It's. I don't like on paper. You would think this would be a decent show, right? I don't. Did you watch?
parts of it. I didn't see all of it.
I went back and watched like the fast like through, so I didn't really get to catch everything. Um, looking at this card, would you think Tony Storm and Soraya would be the worst one on the card?
Um, no.
Me
I
either.
wouldn't know going into it.
If they keep having batches like they did, how do they protect the women's wrestling over there?
It's just really not a lot of matches on the card either.
No, no, no. That's it too, right? Because then a lot of stuff
There's only
is a lot
five matches.
more memorable. Of like, oh, this is bad, right? Um, yeah, it's interesting, man. But to save it, we had whose house, Dan?
Swerve's house.
That's right, Swerve's house.
Or was I supposed to say Stain house? Sorry.
I don't know where he is. He's in Canada somewhere. Trudeau probably locked him down. But
He'll be back.
yeah, when we win a third one this year, hey, let's go Bandits.
Hey, let's go Bandits.
All right, easy there, Dan. Come on, it's a different podcast. We shoot that one on Tuesdays. Pretty interesting promo. Swerve. It's good to see Swerve get into like this Joker pet personality of his when he starts like that deep villainous laugh on the bike. And I don't think I've never heard a wrestler say he was gonna scientifically take apart another wrestler. I don't think I've ever heard that before. That kind of made me chuckle.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think so either. I don't think I've ever heard it either.
Yeah, that did make me chuckle. So that was cool. Nigel did some of the talking as he introduced the champ, and Nigel referred to Brian as Brittle Brian and the neck break kid.
Yeah.
Like, it was cool that Swerve. So, if you're like, as we know, there's a lot of people that are tuning in and tuning out every week for AEW, but it was cool that Swerve like listed all of the opponents he had to go through to get there, right? Like he said, Tankman, Jay White, Tashida, Samoa Joe, Claudio, Christian Cage, and Ospreay. Like he really had to run the gauntlet. Like he was really forced to like, all right, whoever you think's the best, put him in front of me, right? And like a couple, look, both of those with Hangman Page got bloody, right?
Yeah.
I don't.
The
chains
Hangman one.
Yeah.
Oh, the Hangman one was.
Was that the one with the staple gun?
Yeah, and him drinking his blood. Remember?
Yeah. That I do remember.
And like hardcore and like messy wrestling matches with a lot of blood and all that never bother me, but that one like started to bother me a little bit. Like when he literally pulled his forehead over so it dripped into his mouth, I literally like was like, I don't know if I can keep watching this.
Yeah.
Like that one was brutal.
Yeah,
absolutely brutal.
Yeah, I don't remember the Jay White and the Christian Cage. I would have to go back and watch those. Nothing
I don't
crazy
remember those
pops out
either,
like to me. But I would have to go back and watch those. The Joe one I get. Some Bowood Joe ones were good. But I just like how dark he got, right? Like just like so intense. Like Swerve comes out, he comes out confident. He has his guy dancing. It's his song that's playing in the background. He comes out like a star. But then it seems like as he goes through his promo, he gets darker and darker and darker to the point where he's doing that laugh of like, you're not taking this from me. I'm going to die for this belt.
Yeah.
And I had a note here on this. The blood in this, do you think this is going to be less or worse than what we saw from the Hangman Page?
I don't think it'll be worse than that. I mean, it's hard to get worse than that.
Yeah, that's
Um, I don't I don't think it's going to be worse. Um, I think it'll get somewhat bloody. I don't think they're going to do gory bloody. I could be wrong, but
n-
I don't
n-
think they're going to do gory bloody.
are you think it's
Like I
gonna
think
be?
there'll be some because it's just
Yeah, I was thinking it was probably gonna get bloody, but yeah, that's possible. I mean, that is possible.
I could see them giving him a champ. Like there's a part of me that thinks this is going to be one of those situations just like before where Tony's going to want him to win it and they're going to have to talk him into doing it,
Yeah,
you know? But but they won't, right? Like I mean, but he won't want to
right, because
because I
that's
think
not
he
how he
wants it
is.
to be I think he wants it to be a retirement match. But there's a part of me that thinks like they'd love the idea of. Well, I think I said this last week. Like, would they do the idea of Brian wins, Daniel Brian Danielson wins in Wembley, holds the title so they can say he was a champion in that promotion too, gets this huge moment in a huge place, and then either a quick rematch and he loses it, right? Since they have All Out coming up pretty soon after, or he just vacates it himself and he retires as champion, but vacates it. And they can turn it into a tournament or whatever they want to do. Um, I I feel like that's I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm interested to hear what you think.
I thought this was a chance that they give him a title, but I think we talked about this on the last podcast as well. I think this he wants to go out old school. The only thing that concerns me is I think with Daniel Bryan and how much he's ready to endure for this. I'm concerned what they come up with the stomp, with his concussion problem, with his neck. I'm very concerned because you know that's gonna play a story, right? Like if Swerve has already came out and said he's gonna scientifically take him apart piece by piece, you know Swerve is gonna go for that first. It's gonna be that. It's gonna be the shoulder he's done. It's gonna be the deed that he had fixed. Like I, that's why I feel like this could get dangerous for Daniel Bryan because we've seen where Swerve is willing to do, and we haven't seen Daniel Bryan in his 25-year plus career ever take care of himself in the ring. He's always ready to go to that next tier of like, oh, that looked bad, right? Like, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I like your
I
idea of
see
him.
that.
Yeah,
I can't. Well, I was just gonna say, like, this is the thing. Like, I can't really argue against what you just said either. Like, I agree
yeah.
with you, but
It's
I also agree
50-50,
with
right?
what I said,
Yeah,
right? Like, so I sit there and I go, I could see it going both ways, which means I won't know, and then watching it'll be more enjoyable because you don't know.
yeah. It's
They're
right,
doing a good job of keeping it that way. Like, we've been hearing for months that he's ending his career this year for sure, and like he's not even on a contract
right,
anymore. Like we knew a while ago that his contract was up before
right.
Wembley, but he planned on wrestling at Wembley. So they've been building to this moment, and he just said the other day he can't wait to go home and be a dad,
Yeah,
right? And like so all that, and I agree. I agree with you that he's more old school, and this is how you retire with loss,
yeah,
and like you leave. Like this is Ric Flair's one of his 22 retirements, but this is his Shawn Michaels, you know, retirement match, right? Like he loses, but then he gets his send off in the ring because Shawn basically vacates the ring and then that's it. So I could see that for Bryan Danielson, but I just as easily could see the opposite. And because would it have been that hard to, you know, convince him to stick around for so All In is what on Saturday? I
Yeah,
think
yeah, 25th.
Sunday.
Yeah,
So All In's on Sunday, and then All Out's literally
2 weeks.
a week.
2 weeks
Oh
or
yeah, 2 weeks basically. Yeah, it's 2 weeks from Saturday.
yeah, it's
It's the
September 6th,
7th,
right? 6th and 7th.
7th,
7th, sorry, yeah.
6th and 7th. Oh, because
Yeah.
they're doing a live
Yeah.
um Rampage, I think. So and it's in Chicago, and like that's a hotbed for wrestling in general. So he could go out there too and be on, go out on American soil if that matters to him. I don't know that it would,
I
but
don't think it did. I don't know, man. Yeah, going into this, I just hope he's protective of himself. I guess that's where, to answer your question of what my thought is, I just hope he's protective of himself. Like, that's where I am with this. Like, because I know he wants to go home and be a dad, right? But, like, we've seen him times where, like, he doesn't know just when to be like, all right, this is it. So that's the only thing that scares me with this, but it should be good. And then the also big face-to-face off that we had, which I'm not counting Britt and Sasha Banks or whatever she wants to be called. MJF and Ospreay.
yeah.
Good. Very good. Back to Ospreay shouting into the mic again. You can understand 3 out of the 4 words he's saying. 3 of them being bruv. It's crazy that Ospreay said he was hired to come fix the mess that MJF left. MJF said, "What are you talking about? Top AEW brass and WBD brass called me and begged me to come back early, even though I wasn't healed, because the company was dying for attendance." And then Ospreay came back. Well, Tony called me and said he needs to remember what a professional wrestler looks like, so that's why he asked me to become part of AEW. So it was just kind of like them taking comical barbs back at each other, back and forth, right? Like kind of like,
Yeah.
no, you're stupid because of this. No, you're stupid because of this. So I mean, it got the point across, right? Like those 2 guys are veterans; they know what they're doing. It ends with a brawl. Ospreay gets split open by the Diamond Ring. MJF was setting him up for what I thought was a pedigree, but then he screamed Tiger Driver. And then security rushes into the ring and saves him. And then Daniel Bryan sees Ospreay in the hallway and says, "Bring it back." So do you think we're getting the Tiger Driver 91 back now for MJF?
Maybe.
Even though he almost killed somebody the last time he used it.
Oh.
Yeah, 50-50 is not a bad shot. Why not?
Well, I mean,
let's just
that
throw a
also,
ladder into this, Dan. Let's just throw a ladder.
I'm just saying.
A ladder
like,
on a ladder, sunset splash.
A lot of these moves inherently have this problem.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just don't know if it just seems like that one's cursed to me for some reason. It just has a history of bad results. Like, but yeah. So overall, AEW wasn't bad Wednesday. They had a surprisingly bad match being Tony Storm and Saraya, which I didn't think. I thought that would be the Jericho one, but overall, decent card. Promos got across to what they're had to do to set up for the 25th. Anything crazy you think happens at All In that you would like to talk about before we jump ship here. No Ricky Stark intended there.
I
Got it?
anything crazy that happens? Yeah, I just ignored it. But
Oh, okay,
thank you
wow.
for
What
having
a
to
great co-host you are. Jesus.
I mean, look, make stupid jokes, get stupid
All right,
responses.
well,
But
me and the other co-hosts are going to talk about your performance after this show.
who's not even in camera right now?
She's already sleeping on the other side, Dan. She quit on us. No, I just think you think they're gonna pull anything crazy out for this, or you think they're just gonna let the card be and just give everybody the green light to go out and
I
put on a
generally
show?
think they're gonna. I generally think they're gonna let the card be, but there's always something they'll do. I just don't know if it'll be crazy, right? There'll probably be somebody from New Japan that we don't expect, right? Like, but big deal, you know. There's no free agents, right? Like, there's no real big free agents out there, are there?
Ricochet's deal supposedly got finalized for up to 3 years. Do you think he pops in to help MJF over
Oh,
Osprey?
I didn't see that. Um,
The
I
last
didn't see
report I
that.
saw, that was 3 years, I believe.
Maybe, but I feel like too they might save that
Yeah,
for over here.
yeah,
Because it's such a big show to begin with, right?
yeah.
Like,
Like, why jam pack it if you don't have to? Yeah, agreed.
but
Yeah.
you never know.
So, all right, cool. Yeah, that's the only thing I thought of is when I saw that. I go, oh, Tim and Osprey have a past. Anytime Osprey pass anything that is equivalent to Ricochet, he tags Ricochet in the post. The further bring it along, you know what I mean. So,
Right.
um, um, so yeah, all right. Well, let's jump ship here, Dan. WWE time. WWE time, Dan. Starts off Orton, Gunther segment. Ludwig surprises Orton, gets in a brawl. Makes me feel like this is even going to be better than I first thought it was going to be for Bash at Berlin. It's just something about those two standing face to face in the ring. I go, yeah, this is what I paid $9.99 a month to watch, Dan. This is what I paid $9.99 a month to watch. Raw had 7 matches. That's more matches than their last 2 pay-per-view cards?
I think so. Yeah.
Right? Because it was 5 or 6, I think. First one, Sheamus versus Pete Dunne. Second one was Ivy Nile the Pitbull versus Maxine Dupree. Dupree looks a lot better in the ring. You could definitely tell she's busting her butt at the training facility to get better. Wyatt Six return. That is pretty cool. They're getting involved again. I'll save the promos for the end. Third match was New Day and Odyssey Jones versus the Final Testament in a 6-man tag match. So this was weird. This one I wanted to talk to you about. This was weird. So Odyssey Jones and then New Day beat the Final Testament, right? And then Karen Cross is standing in the hallway, and Scarlett asked him to forget about the New Day. It's weird. On a loss, your co-manager or whatever just asked you to forget about the opponent you just had. Even though I think they lost the last 2 times against him.
I think so. Yeah.
Like, isn't that, like, one, how poor for Karrion Kross? Like, we both agree he should be doing more than this, correct? He could be, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think they're building. So right? Like he wasn't doing anything since what was before this little mini story started. Where the hell has he been?
Yeah, I mean, but so you think that's more on him or more the fact they're jam packed?
Well, probably a little bit of both, right? Like that's what they always say, right? Like there's limited time, so even if you only get 15 seconds on a show, you've got to make it the best 15
Correct.
seconds you've got,
Correct.
right? So it's probably a little bit of both. But I mean also, you know, you can go all the way back to when he returned and he was like stalking Roman, but then that never went anywhere, remember?
Oh, with the light, right? He just
The
put it.
clock.
Yeah, the clock. He just put it on the apron, and then they walked away.
Yeah, and like then
And
they
then it.
did nothing with that.
Yeah.
They never wrestled, right? I don't think so, right? He never wrestled Roman, did he? I don't think so. When Roman was champion. So I don't know. I my guess is it's a little bit of both, but it is probably more likely it's more likely it's they're jam packed and they just don't have a spot for him today with all of the stuff they've got going on and that they're building, but they're giving him something and he's got to make the most of it, so they give him more.
Yeah.
So there's probably a setup here for something, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. I just feel like I feel like the pairing of AOP and Carrion is perfect because AOP can just toss people around. They're giants. They look scary. They look like dudes you don't want to screw with. And Carrion is like a double black belt. Like he knows how to do just about anything to snap any bone in your body. Like he's been on the D&D scenes. He made a big way for himself there with Scarlet. Like they've been all over the world, Japan, everywhere. Like so he knows what he's doing, right? But like I
yeah,
kind of feel I don't know. Did you watch that Damian Priest that documentary on Peacock?
I did not.
So Triple H basically uttered the same thing that you just said. Is like when Damian got his first tryout with NXT, right? He was good. He did everything he asked. He took the feedback. He was coachable. He was approachable. He wasn't a pain with anybody. He did everything he was supposed to, right? But Triple H said at the end of the day, NXT was just too loaded at that time. So like I kind of feel like Karrion Kross is at that Damian Priest type point. That like he just needs
Could
that
be.
year type experience, like that year type run, where like you see him turn into an LA Knight or you turn into a Damian Priest, and then you're like, oh yeah, this guy is truly that good. But but that's the thing. Like you said, I think it's storyline issue. I don't know what they have for him. Yeah, but I just thought that was weird what Scarlett had, and then she also said, "You seem like you're tense. I know how to fix that." Whoa. Save that
Dang.
for Netflix. Save that for Netflix, Scarlett.
They're they're actually not. I mean, obviously they must be saving some stuff, but over the last like month,
They're testing it,
they've
right?
gotten they've gotten real risque.
Yeah. They're getting real
So
silk stockings, like, you know what I'm saying? That
yeah, so they're not really. Yes, you're just full of them tonight, huh?
uh,
Anyway,
I'm on fire, Dan. When you got it, you
they're
got it.
really. I mean, if they're saving something for Netflix, I can't even imagine.
Right?
I'm waiting for the return of the bra and panties match. Like, what
What
is going on here?
what would you do if they come back and the first batch on Netflix is just all out blood? Just like GCW type blood.
I
Like,
mean, I'd be fine. I never had.
would that shock you? Uh-oh, did we lose Dan again? Did we lose Dan? We might have.
Hello, you there? I
You
just
keep
realized you were frozen on my side, but I was still talking the whole time.
you you disconnected on mine. Weird. I'll fix that in
That's weird.
editing.
I could see everything. I could see everything except then I realized you're frozen. I
Um,
thought you were just like waiting to like bomb me with some one liner for what I was saying.
no, 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 no. But just to go back to it for the technical difficulties that we had, uh, yeah. What would you do if it was just like GCW type blood? Would that shock you that they just went to that extreme on the first night? Would that be
I
just
mean,
like, whoa?
it might shock me if they do it right away, but then again, that's right up their alley to do something to really make a statement on night one of Netflix. But what I was saying before the difficulties was it wouldn't bother me in general because that stuff for the most part has never bothered me. And for the last few years that AEW has gotten a lot of like heat for always having hardcore and blood and all, and it's too much and it's this and it's that, that stuff doesn't really bother me. Like Eric Bischoff doesn't like gimmick matches and all that. But one of the things he said in the past too is like as long as every match isn't like that, like every
Yeah,
match on the same show,
can't be all
week
blood.
to week it's right, week to week it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
But it's the
agreed.
same thing of like you can't have five of the same type of finishes. Like you've got to coordinate better, right, on a show. So if they started doing a lot more blood and a lot more like, I mean, they've been doing some pretty crazy like moves too that are much more risky than they used to do. Like, I mean, we were just talking about it last week with what's his face getting thrown into the freaking chair.
Yeah,
Um, right? Like that was a wild like risk to take. And then so they've been doing a lot of that.
yeah,
So
yeah. They definitely. Well, in the fact they let KO and Sammy bring back the buckle bomb on a couple of pay-per-views, right? Like that's like if there's a move that's dangerous, you're slightly off. You're breaking that guy's deck in half.
and their ladder matches over the last year have
Oh,
been crazy.
intense, intense.
That
Yeah.
women's ladder match from Money in the Bank
Yes.
still like so like they've been allowing a lot more of that. So yeah, it won't shock me, but yeah, it'll surprise me if they go like super hardcore night one, but it won't shock me.
All right.
They're like I do wonder, since we're talking about it, I do wonder if they're weighing the ability to be non-rated with the idea that there's still going to be a high amount of children watching.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do about that. But then again, like they didn't care during the Attitude Era, and there were. I mean, I guess there weren't as many children, but I just think like it's going to be. I don't know if they care. Like you're going to go from like the kid in the front row that's going to get Cody Rhodes' weight belt, who is like 8 years old, and then 2 minutes later you're going to have two half naked women dripping in blood. And you're gonna have Liv and Dominic doing God knows what in the middle of the
Right.
ring, like
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't know, like I do wonder how they're gonna weigh that. Maybe they just are gonna be like, never mind, we're really honing in on 18 to 49.
Yeah. I mean, it worked once. Chances are it's gonna work again. So, um, fourth match: Bronson Reed versus The Miz in a no DQ match. Strowman comes out to save Miz afterwards from a tsunami attack. Something about Bronson Reed and Strowman has me intrigued. I think because
Yeah,
I want to see if Braun can pick up Bronson Reed. I think that's the only reason. And like I think it has the same element of Gunther and Orton, right? Like Gunther and Orton, you're gonna get class, but you're gonna get heavy hitting. Bronson, Reed, and Braun, I think you're just gonna get two drunks at the bar just wailing on each other for 7 minutes, right? Like that's right. Like
maybe.
that's what it's gonna be.
Yeah,
Like it's gonna
yeah,
like it's gonna feel like if they do have a match that you're watching world star hip hop and just two big dudes are just throwing down at the street corner on each other. Um, so that could get crazy because God knows, especially with Braun doing that like sprint thing, that train thing he does around the ring to hit Bronson. Like Jesus, he might kill somebody. Um, After that, we had Damian and Dominic. That got screwed up because of the Judgment Day. Funny thing, when Dominic got slammed on his back and his legs were in the air, did you see the post that Rhea had?
No.
So he was kind of crunched over where like his legs were kind of like above his head, right? So he's like this.
No.
And Rhea snipped the picture, posted it on her Instagram, and said Dom has always been a bottom. But like once again, right? Like that's the type of post. Like they're seeing how far they can go and get away with now, right? Like they're trying, like,
Yeah.
but like for her to come out and do that, that's absolutely hysterical. Hysterical. Yeah. So it's just I want to see if I get the full on words for you. Oh man, where'd she put it? All right, I'll have to find it for you later. But yeah, it was just downright hysterical. So that was cool. Sixth match, the Unholy Union versus Damage Control and Pure Fusion Collective. I could care less.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah. And then 7 was Randy versus Ludwig versus Gunther. Apologies. And Gunther let Ludwig take a beating. Like if he's out there with his guys, he doesn't really do much. Like he's old school of like, nah, you're gonna show me what you can do on your own. Like he doesn't really play around much to where like he'll help you out. It was kind of funny, just to see. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's yeah, and then all right. So to go back to the promo real quick. So first one, Terror Twins promo. Very good. Damian talks about the past 2 weeks. This bugged out Judgment Day tried to take us out and they can't. Calls them clowns and says, "Liv and Dom, your days are numbered because at Bash at Berlin, you two will receive your punishment." Rhea steps in front of him, and then says, "Dom, you're gonna find out really quick that it was Damian and myself that was keeping you safe the entire time. And as for Liv, you said you've taken everything from me. You haven't taken everything, actually, at all. You've really done is become the one thing that you truly hate, a discount Rhea Ripley," which is hysterical. I think this could get interesting.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For
You
sure. This is going to be good.
you think we see Rhea put the pump handle to Dom?
Oh, I'm sure.
And then
Perfect heel babyface type move too.
and then Damian comes out and gives the choke slam to Liv. He could probably throw her in like 9 feet above his head and just drop her. And then we got one Bill Phil, Chicago's very own,
One Bill Phil.
the straight edge himself,
That's why AEW is only getting 140 mil a year.
the cancer of AEW, some would say.
Yeah.
The reason the Young Bucks travel in packs, some would say. Oh, there's the other co-host. He had a segment with Drew. We're going back to a strap match. We're going back NWA time, Dan.
Yeah, this is like when was the last time? I wonder when the last time WWE had a strap match.
Whoa.
I'm looking it up.
I thought it was funny in this promo. CM Punk calls himself the Taylor Swift for guys. Did you catch that part of this?
I did not actually.
Yeah.
Oh, I lied. They had one in 2022. That's not really that long ago.
Who was it
Drew
though?
Drew McIntyre versus Karrion Kross, Extreme Rules, October 8th, 2022. I don't remember that at
Yeah,
all.
I don't remember that at all. But yeah, he talked about like his journey here. Like he talked about like I don't know. He talked about that he's on a that WWE's on a hot streak not because of the guys in the ring, but because of everybody that shows up. He talks about all of that. Um, he talked about the fans that came to Fanatics Fest, which we could talk about if you want in a bit, just to see him. And then he called out Drew. And Drew said he's on. And Punk wanted to do it right now. But once again, Punk got distracted by the bracelet. He said, if you give me the bracelet, I'll give you the strap. Once again, bracelet's paying away. They're telling a story, man.
Yeah.
How bloody do you think this gets?
I
think this has potential to get bloody.
Yeah, I don't think it does, to be honest. All too bloody. I think they focus on whipping each other, and so you see a lot of welts, but I don't know how much blood you're going to see.
Would you like to bet on it?
Sure. I think they're going to leave blood for. They're eventually going to get to Hell in a Cell, even though Punk kind of like shot down. I think they're going to get to Hell in a Cell, and then you're going to see a lot of blood. It'll probably be at Bad Blood.
Ha! I wonder if Bad Bunny will be there. Anyways,
there were a lot more strap matches in WWE than I realized in the last.
Go through the last 5. Go through the last 5 then.
So,
because I probably don't know any of them.
So, last 5. So we said Drew McIntyre, Karrion Kross, Extreme Rules 2022. Don't remember it. Just as a side note, CM Punk had one in 2009 against Umaga.
That I do remember, actually.
Dexter Lumis and Cameron Grimes had one at NXT TakeOver War Games in 2020, December 2020. I probably wasn't watching it. The Fiend and Daniel Bryan had a strap match in January 26, 2020 at the Royal Rumble. Those are the last few within this decade. Those are the last ones within this decade.
I remember the Fiend. I don't know if I remember the opponent of it, but I do remember the Fiend one being involved.
Daniel Bryan with a shaved head, based on this picture.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't like this. Like they're just telling a great story here, right? Like it's just. It kind of feels like every week, like it kind of felt like early on, Punk kept screwing over Drew. Punk was in Drew's head. Punk was the thing that Drew couldn't get over to get the title, right? And now that that night that Drew picked him up, threw him into the garage, sent him to the hospital, took the bracelet. Now all of a sudden it flip-flopped to where Punk can't get over Drew. Drew's the one thing that's screwing in his head. Like, they're telling the perfect story with this, right? Do you think there's a chance this story gets old?
No.
I don't either. I think both guys are too good for this to ever get old between them.
Yep.
When Seth gets back, do you think Seth goes after Bronson Reed first, or do you think Seth jumps right back in here?
I think it depends on how well this story with Drew and Punk are going, because at the end of the day, they could they could always pivot to Seth when he gets back.
Because didn't we read last podcast that that's not planned for a while? Right?
Yeah, I think so. But I actually think when Seth comes back, it's going into a triple threat with these guys.
I do too. I do too as
So
well.
he might, he might come back and just be like, I'll get to Bronson Reed, but I had other business I wanted to finish first.
Right. So, and the third promo that happened, Liv and Dom respond to Damian and Rhea. Did you see Liv's shirt in this
No.
promo?
No.
So I don't know if you remember Rhea after the match in Cleveland was outside basically like holding her arm like this and kind of like crying or tearing up a bit. Well, Liv's shirt with that picture from SummerSlam was Rhea crying. That's the shirt she had. So like they played it perfectly again, right? Like just the
Yeah.
small details to provoke and to keep the story going. But yeah, Liv basically comes out and says you don't stand a chance against us. We're the best that there is in WWE. Nobody's gonna put their finger on Dom and get away with it. So it will be them on top, exactly where we like it. Was her exact words. Once again, seeing how far you could go without getting in trouble. Um, and then Dominic said he doesn't want to wait for Bash at Berlin. Wants to fight Damian now. So let's do it tonight if you're not afraid, and leave Rhea in the back. Blah blah blah. And he won't even have Liv. Well, obviously it was a setup, right, for them both to get jumped and to be left there on top of each other. And Dom threw his shirt on top of the both of them. So obviously you could see it coming. They played that off as Damian was too pissed to not get caught up in the crap, but he did anyways, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean it's interesting. It was a good card. 7 matches seems like a lot, but then again, it is 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
7
3
matches and
hours
3
for sure.
promos, so 10 items, right? Well, it's 4 promos if you count the Randy and Gunther segment. So,
Right.
that's still a lot, man. They're really pushing on Raw to just keep everything on pace, and then just giving you just enough on the pay per view, which I think I kind of like because I feel like Raw's not boring. You know what I mean?
It's
Right?
definitely not boring.
It consistently gets you to where you need to be at the end of the 3 hours. So, yeah, just a real quick update on NXT. We had Axiom and Dathan Frazier versus Duke Hudson and Riley Osborne. I believe Axiom and Frazier won. Lola Vice versus Wendy Chu. Lola will go in for the title against Roxanne. Or no, I'm sorry. Soul, Ruka, Jada Parker, Brittany, Bradley Reese, Adrian Rizzo, Kendall Gray, Ren Sinclair. That was the winner for Roxanne Perez's title at No Mercy. I don't think it really matters who comes out of that because I don't foresee them having Roxanne drop for a while. She's just too good. The fourth match we had the FTR version in WWE, the Good Brothers versus Hank Walker and Tank Ledger, which I'm tired of the Good Brothers, if anybody can tell. Fifth match, Dion Lennox versus Ashanti the Adonis. Sixth match, Joe Henry versus Wesley and Pete Dunne in a triple threat match. Once again, Pete Dunne doing double duty. He's pulling an Otis.
Yeah.
Good for him.
It's all right.
No,
Not
yeah.
really doing a ton with them on the top.
No,
On
yeah.
the
Get your experience. Get in there. Joe Henry versus Ethan Page at No Mercy. Do they really give Joe Hendry the title?
Yes, they should. They should.
Do you think Sean does it?
Yes.
A cross
I mean, I
promotion
thought this.
title?
I thought this before that they were going to do it, and they didn't, and I thought it was a missed opportunity then. So I think I think it's great. I think they also owe TNA a little bit,
Yes.
right? Like at
Yes.
the end of the day, like TNA's been very good. I mean, this Joe Hendry situation is crazy, and at least it's crazy compared to what we thought this used to be like. But so I do think they kind of owe them. But what better way than to let Joe Hendry, who's just freaking white hot right now, everywhere, um, um, go in there and then take the title for a little bit and show up on TNA with it.
Do you think it hurts Ethan Page at all from what he's done? And I don't think so either. I think it
No,
even
because he
makes
earned
him
it
look
so
better.
quick too.
Right.
Yeah, he earned it so quick, and he can still chase and whatever, or they can pop him into one of the other two shows. Now that he doesn't have the NXT belt, you know.
What if? What if, Dan? Moose is always saying he needs more competition. Joe Henry takes his title from Page. Page goes over there and tries to take that title from Moose.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, maybe.
You're going to come take that from us, and I'm going to come take your big belt from you. Right?
Yeah.
Well, and I think they also owe TNA for all the work that they put Jordan Grayson behind the scenes. She's been at the training center. She's been shooting for the next video game. She's been doing everything. Right? So it's like, yeah, it's interesting. I've heard very good things about this WWE TNA relationship. Like, I don't know. It makes sense, right? Like it makes, like, yeah. So, yeah, it's crazy, man. I just trying to see
I
here.
hope he wins. I really do. I think he should. I think it'll be good. I think it'll be, semi unexpected, right? People who might think it could happen will also sit there and go, did they really just do that? Like, are they really letting the TNA guy win the belt? It'd be
Yeah,
great.
that's what I'm wondering, right? Like, that's what I'm wondering. I don't know, man. Would you do it?
Yeah,
I would too.
of course.
When do you have Joe Henry show up on the big roster?
I don't know. I don't know if their deal goes that far. I
I don't
really
think so.
don't. I think their deal probably is keeping it to NXT. I realized,
What
I
about
think,
Royal Rumble?
that I could see for
Yeah.
sure because they do that. But I don't think it goes anywhere. I think he's just in there.
Yeah, and I think he gets
I don't,
probably
I don't think
knocked
he
out
wins.
within 2 to 3 guys. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they might give him a little bit of a run, like, just for the hell of it. Have him, because they could have other NXT guys in there too that he could eliminate to start a feud with too.
Yeah. Do you think we eventually get Punk back at TNA?
I don't think so. I don't.
I don't know.
I think this is limited to the NXT
Just to get them
TNA
experience and exposure.
experience and exposure. I could be wrong, but I just don't see it crossing over to main roster stuff. Like, could they do something where, like, I don't know, maybe he shows up in the crowd or something like that, or they show him backstage. I don't think you see him wrestle in TNA. I thought I saw they were advertising him for an NXT show, aren't they? Punk.
Chicago, I think it is.
Yeah, I think he's going to be at that show, but I expect him to just do what he did the last time. Probably be out there in the ring with Sean or whatever, like.
Do you think he's next in line to take over?
Who
Punk, because they
take over what?
take after
NXT?
Sean. Yeah,
No,
D-
I don't.
there's a lot
I
of
don't.
talk going around. Like he's just been like. So I don't know if you saw the Punk documentary. You could watch it for $9.99 a month. Um, it says like how involved he got backstage, like how he would train himself, train others, teach again at night, and then he was the only one staying late with Paul to like figure out like how to cut a show, how to plan this show to the next Tuesday show, how to plug in where you're gonna put the advertisers, and supposedly like Punk's been training, right? Because we've seen him um, with a handful of the best NXT talent, like in the ring at the Performance Center with the boots on, getting dirty. But then I guess there's also been like subtle like beatings with Sean and stuff like behind stage of like Sean picking his brain and Punk just like asking questions. I it feels too right for him to take over NXT because I think he eventually wanted to go and buy Ring of Honor. Like I just think he eventually wanted to go and be like the guy for Ring of Honor. He just feels like that guy for me, right? He just like I don't know,
Yeah.
because I don't think he'll ever be done. Now that he's truly happy, I don't think he'll ever truly be done.
Yeah. I don't. I get what you're saying. I just don't know. I don't know if I see it for such a big business like
Yeah,
WWE.
that's true. Because now it
Ring
has
of
to go
Honor would
through
have been
Endeavor.
different.
Yeah,
Well, and Ring of Honor would have been different. And also, I do wonder, does he find out? I don't know why I think this, but I also wonder, does he find out what Cody found out? That being that guy isn't really what he thought it was going to be. And he was, now, granted, he's younger and still in his prime for his career, but I guess it'd be different if you can't wrestle anymore, right? Like, I guess 20 years ago, you would have never thought Shawn Michaels would be in this position either, you know? So I don't know. I don't know.
yeah, that's a good point. Because he does hang out with Cody a lot behind doors, and they probably had that conversation of like what's next after like we're done, right? Like,
Yeah, I just don't know if long term, if he can, if he would love that idea in such a big corporation. Now, being around as an ambassador, as a coach, maybe an agent to a degree, or as a guy who's gonna train with people and mentor, that I could see
yeah, agree.
backstage, right? Like 100%. Like, and that might be his lifetime goal now. Like that might be, I'm in this for the rest of my life. But a lot of it will move to backstage only. And yeah, maybe he'll have some involvement somewhere in creative and helping with stories. But I don't know about, sitting at the desk timing the show and producing it start to finish. But I think he'd be, to be honest, I think he'd be better being back there with all the people, right? Like talking to all these younger wrestlers and helping them and mentoring them and things like that, right? Like he can be a Dustin Rhodes, like Dustin Rhodes is that in AEW, right? Tons of knowledge, been around the block plenty, been in multiple promotions, has been, up towards the top of those promotions and um, can offer that perspective.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Like he would probably be like a good guy to have in Gorilla, but not the guy with the headphones on, right? Calling the shots, like right.
Yeah.
Like he would be the guy that would be like, "Yo, this was good. This is what you did good. Hey, this is what we kind of want you to work on." Blah blah. That type of conversations. I could see it. I just find it so interesting, right? Because he seems so happy now. Like all the Instagram videos, like all the clips we see, like even when he was talking at Fanatics Fest, like he just seemed like he. I I don't know if we've ever seen Punk this level of being happy.
No, I think it's a level of,
He's just
and a little bit
stress
of
free,
what he
right?
said
Like
too. Well, and it's a level of maturity.
Yeah. Right.
You know, AEW brought him back into the fold, got him back, you know, truly in love, realized what he was missing, and then he matured through a situation of dealing with them. And now he's just that much more appreciative of what it is. Plus, like he said too in those interviews at Fanatics Fest or wherever the hell it was, it's such a different WWE.
Yes.
Like he was talking specifically about how there's an app to request time off, which I
Hmm.
thought was so funny when he said that because I was like, I'm actually a little surprised they have that too. He's like, yeah, I just go into the app and tell him the days I need and I just request my time off. Like, I never would have thought that that existed, but like, it's a great example of what he's talking about. Like, this place is different now, you know, and some of that was different even under Vince too, but it's much different today. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, it's good though, right? Like this is kind of what we wanted. Um.
You think he eventually talks AJ into coming back, at
Yes.
least for
I think
one
it's
run?
sooner. I think it's sooner than you think.
Okay.
I think it's
Yeah.
sooner than. I
I
think.
tend to think so too because they're just running out of time, right? Like,
Sorry,
you know,
not
you
sooner than you think, but I think that also based on when he gets a shot at one of the titles. I think when he gets a shot at one of the titles, that's when you see her get back. And I think I will make a
okay.
I will make a futures belt bet. You see her at this upcoming Royal Rumble.
In the match?
Yes,
Okay.
we can bet on that if you want, Dan.
I'm not very good at these bets.
Yeah,
I think
I
I'm on
know.
a I think I'm on a losing streak.
Yeah, it was the uh Pokemon cards, right? That was their first one. That was their first and only one.
Yeah, which actually I haven't even bought yet, but now I can't even find them.
Oh, here we go. Jesus. Yeah, I mean, for what seemed like just a regular week of wrestling, out of Monday and Tuesday night, there was 13 matches. The SmackDown matches for tomorrow that have been down so far. Here you go. Tag match: Bloodline versus the Street Profits, supposedly. United States Champion match: LA Knight versus Escobar. A 6-woman tag match: Naomi, Bianca Belair, and Jade versus Elba Fire, Isa Down, and Blair Davenport. So those are 3 of them. So what do you think? SmackDown has 5 for the night? 5,
Four.
4, 5, and 2 promos?
I think four because the bloodline stuff usually runs pretty long
Yeah.
when it comes to like if I don't know if Roman's gonna be there or not, right? Like I assume he might be. Um, you know, he's they're gonna introduce more to that story, I think,
R-
for sure.
Roman shows up to cost him the title, and he finally gets face to face with Jacob.
Um, maybe, maybe.
Dan, that doesn't spark the internet with your maybes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that.
All right.
I think he's got to bring someone in. You know, I think
Not yet.
that's the next logical step. I think it's the next logical step. They'd still be down 3-2, so
Yeah, not yet. I think
or 4-2.
I think we get a screw up here where they play Roman's theme song. Bloodline gets distracted. 1, 2, 3. Two champions. The Street Profits have the belt, and thank God that MVP and Bobby Lashley are gone.
Whoa,
Dan, we're not
easy.
gonna say like they didn't just bore out the Street Profits with them two in charge of them. Like, what are we doing? Or with the whole Omos thing? Like, what are we doing? They just didn't. They just couldn't do it as bad managers. So I mean, so okay, so 4 matches there, 6 on Tuesday night, 10, 17 WWE matches within a week. That's a lot. That's a lot of people working.
Yep.
And that's not the promos. That's not like the behind the scenes stuff. Like, it's a lot of people working. But it just seemed like just such another week of wrestling, right? That like they're so consistent. Like going into it, it just feels like you're just watching wrestling. But when everything happens, you're kind of like, oh, this is doing this down the line. This is doing this. Like they're just so good at just. You don't feel a disconnect from anything the week before, right?
Right.
So, yeah. So, I mean, that's all I had. Did you have anything you would like to discuss today, Daniel?
I do not. I do not.
Are we doing a show before Bash at Berlin, just for predictions, or are we doing a show after? What would you like to do, sir? Bash at Berlin is Saturday?
31st?
Yeah.
Well, we'll be doing one before that if we're doing next Thursday.
Okay. Prediction show and what if
Prediction
down the
show.
line?
Yep.
And then we can see if AEW has a TV deal yet. So, all right.
I'm sure that I don't know about next week, but I'm sure they're getting one soon.
Me too, Dan. Can't wait. Can't wait to hear all about a big announcement.
Tony's foreshadowing.
Yeah.
He's wearing his mouse hats and his.
Yeah, that foreshadowing is because of the nose candy, but that's a different story for a different day.
Whoa, Jesus.
Anyway, that's called paranoia.
Jesus. Jax, can you take over?
I had an uncle tell me that once, and that's Harley, by the way.
Oh, I thought it was Jax.
Nope, that's Harley. You don't even know your dogs. Jesus. Anyways, Season 2, Episode 7, Botch Wrestling Podcast, same chaos, dope plan. Dan and I go back and forth as always. Like, comment, subscribe, pass on to your favorite friends, or don't. I mean, at this point, it happens.
I mean, do.
Yeah,
do.
Please do, because we're trying to get that ESW table for Dan Housen.
Just get him to click on it.
Yeah.
Just watch 10 minutes. We'll be fine with that.
Yeah, sure. And I'm going to reach
That's
out
right.
to Dan Housen after this to see if he can get us a table at ESW.
We'll need to get some merch.
I'll buy anything if he can get me at...
No. I mean, we'll have to get some merch to sell at that table.
No.
Not merch from him. I have a Danhausen shirt.
We're not there yet, Dan. Okay, we're not there.
Small logo. Danhausen's face.
Like, comment, subscribe. Tell your friends. Tell your mom. Dan's single, so that helps him. Anyways, adios, folks.
So tell your cute friends.
Get wild.